Welcome to the channel for another exciting video. Most people who watch our videos are not subscribed, so I kindly ask you to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any new content. Your like is essential for YouTube to understand that this content is relevant, so please like, share, and leave your comment. Now, let's get to the story. Clara got off the bus, feeling the salty sea air touch her face. The sound of the waves crashing on the beach in front of her was a familiar melody, but now it sounded like a sad song, an echo of a past that wouldn't let her be. She looked around, admiring the rustic wooden houses lined along the shore, covered by a soft fog that seemed to envelop the coastal village of Crescent City. The beauty of the place was undeniable, but for Clara, each view was a painful reminder that tightened her heart. A man with graying beard passing by with a bucket of fish in hand asked, "Are you okay, miss?" He stopped, watching her with interest. Clara replied, "Yes, just thinking," forcing a smile. The man nodded but didn't seem convinced. He continued on his way, leaving Clara alone again with her thoughts. As she walked toward the beach, Clara felt the cold sand under her bare feet. The sound of the sea drew her in, as if it wanted to wrap her in its embrace. As she walked, her mind drifted to her sister, Sophia, and the memories they shared. Sophia's laughter echoed in her mind, a sweet and innocent melody that was now just a distant echo. Clara closed her eyes for a moment, allowing herself to feel the pain of loss. "I'm sorry, Sophia," she murmured to herself. "I can't let this go." When she opened her eyes, Clara spotted something moving on the horizon. A horse, majestic and wild, was galloping along the beach. Its black coat shone in the sunlight, and Clara felt a shiver run down her spine. The horse seemed free, completely unaware of the sorrows that weighed on human life. The young woman stood frozen, watching every movement of the animal, feeling an inexplicable connection. It was as if the horse was calling to her, as if it knew of her pain. "Wait!" Clara shouted, running toward the animal. But the horse stopped, looking at her with large, deep eyes, as if it could see directly into her soul. Clara hesitated, careful not to scare it. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice trembling. The horse neighed softly, as if responding to her question. After a few minutes, the horse turned and began to run, disappearing into the mist at the end of the beach. Clara stood there for a moment, feeling a mixture of loss and hope. "What was that?" she whispered, still in shock from the experience. As she returned to the village, a new determination began to grow within her. It was time to start over, to discover what that village had to offer beyond her own shadows. As she walked, she heard murmurs among the locals. A group of people was gathered around a table in the central square, gesturing and speaking animatedly. "Have you heard about the girl who disappeared?" "Sophia," a woman said, her tone laden with mystery. "Yes, everyone says she became a legend here. No one knows what really happened," a man replied, looking around as if worried about eavesdroppers. Clara stopped, her heart racing. Sophia. The name resonated in her mind like a bell. Determined to understand the story behind the legend, Clara approached. "Excuse me, but what happened to Sophia?" she asked, her voice firm yet trembling. The gazes turned to her, some filled with sympathy, others with suspicion. "It's best not to talk about that, miss," an older man said, shaking his head. "Things from the past should stay in the past." Clara felt a mix of frustration and curiosity. "But I need to know. What happened to her? Why does the community still suffer from it?" The woman who had spoken earlier looked at Clara, her eyes soft. "If you want to know, it won't be easy. Many people have their own versions of the story. Be careful what you seek." "I'm not afraid," Clara replied with renewed determination. The shadow of her guilt still accompanied her, but now she was willing to face not only her own past, but the mystery surrounding the village and the memory of her sister. Clara walked through the village, the sea breeze mingling with the smell of salt and the humidity in the air. The beauty of the place was undeniable, but the pain that accompanied her made everything around her a bit gloomier. With hesitant steps, she headed to the small local market, where locals gathered to exchange news. Upon entering, she noticed the curious and suspicious looks directed at her. It was as if her presence was a reminder of something they preferred to forget. She approached the counter, where an elderly woman was organizing fruits. "Good morning," Clara said, trying to sound friendly. "Could you tell me about the legend of Sophia?" The woman looked her up and down, her suspicious gaze freezing Clara's smile. "Sophia? That's not something to talk about around here," she replied, avoiding looking directly at Clara. "Better to leave the past where it belongs." Frustrated, Clara turned and left the market, feeling like an intruder in a place that should have been a refuge. But curiosity pushed her on. Walking along the beach, Clara encountered Miguel, a local fisherman with a deep, sorrowful gaze. He was mending his nets while the waves gently broke behind him. "Hi," Clara said, approaching. "Do you know the story of Sophia?" He looked up and observed her for a moment, as if weighing his words. "Sophia was a childhood friend," he said, in a low voice. "But it's better for you not to get involved with that." "Why not?" "What happened to her?" Clara insisted, determined to uncover the truth. Miguel sighed, stopping what he was doing. "People don't like to remember. It's an open wound for many here. Sophia disappeared, and her pain still haunts the village. What you're seeking isn't easy to find." Clara felt a tightness in her chest. "I just want to understand. Guilt follows me. You know? I lost my sister, and maybe finding out what happened to Sophia will help me accept what happened in my life." Miguel watched her for a moment, his eyes revealing an empathy that Clara hadn't expected. He had his own pain, too. "I understand," he finally said. "But be careful, Clara. The people here have secrets, and sometimes they're willing to protect those truths at any cost." "I'm not afraid," Clara replied. Although she knew that wasn't completely true, "I need to know." Miguel nodded slowly. "Then let's go together. We can find out what happened to Sophia, but we need to be cautious." Together, they began to walk along the beach, talking and sharing stories. Clara felt a friendship forming, based on their losses. As they walked, Clara spotted something colorful in the sand. She crouched down and picked up a torn piece of fabric, marked with a symbol that looked familiar. "Look at this," Clara exclaimed, holding the piece of fabric towards Miguel. "What do you think it means?" Miguel approached, his eyes narrowing as he examined the object. "This belongs to Libertas, the wild horse. He shows up here sometimes. But the symbol, that's something I don't recognize." Clara frowned, intrigued. "Do you think it could be linked to Sophia?" "It might be. People say the horse is a messenger of secrets." He hesitated, looking towards the horizon. "If Sophia was involved with this, maybe this piece of fabric is the key to discovering what happened." Clara's determination grew. "We need to investigate. We can't let this pass." Miguel nodded, Clara's gaze reflecting the same determination he felt. "All right, let's find out the truth. But we need to be careful. Some people won't like you asking questions." Clara looked at the sea, feeling a wave of hope mixed with fear. She was about to dive into a mystery that could change everything, and despite the shadow of guilt that followed her, she felt that maybe, just maybe, this search would help her find the peace she so desired. Clara and Miguel walked along the beach, the sea breeze mixing with the salty scent of the water. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink, creating an almost magical scene. Clara gazed at the water, lost in her thoughts, when a movement to her right caught her attention. There, in the sand, was Libertas, the majestic wild horse she had first seen the previous morning. He stood, head lowered, watching them from a distance. "Look, Clara, he's here again," Miguel commented, a smile lighting up his face. "It seems he likes you. It's strange, isn't it?" "I feel like he understands me, as if he knows my pain," Clara replied, slowly approaching the animal. Libertas raised his head, his dark brown eyes reflecting the light of the sunset. Clara crouched down, extending her hand towards the horse. "Hi, friend. Did you come to see me again?" Miguel watched her, admiring the connection Clara seemed to have with the animal. "You know, there's something special about horses. They have a way of sensing what we're going through, of comforting us." As Clara stroked Libertas's mane, she noticed something in the sand. A torn piece of fabric marked with a mysterious symbol was there, half buried. "Miguel, look at this," she exclaimed, pulling the fabric out of the sand. What do you think it is? Miguel approached, examining the piece of fabric that had a curious design, almost like a spiral. I've never seen anything like this. It looks ancient. Do you think it could be connected to Sophia? Clara frowned, intrigued. Maybe. We need to find out more about this. Let's go to her house tomorrow and see if we can find any clues. The next day brought a new determination. Clara and Miguel met at Sophia's old house, a place that now seemed shrouded in mystery and sadness. The house, with its peeling paint and dusty windows, seemed to hold secrets that cried out to be revealed. Clara pushed the door, which creaked as if protesting the intrusion. Are you sure you want to do this? Miguel asked, a bit hesitant. Yes. I need to understand what happened here, Clara replied, her voice firm but with a tremor of nervousness. Inside the house, everything was as it had been left, as if time had stopped. Clara walked to Sophia's room, where she found a messy desk and, among some sheets of paper, an old letter. Her heart raced as she picked up the paper and sat on the bed. Miguel approached, curious. What did you find? He asked. It's a letter. It seems to be from Sophia's family. It mentions a secret, something they kept for years, Clara said, her eyes widening as she read aloud. We can never forget what happened that summer. What Sophia discovered could have terrible consequences for all of us. Miguel frowned, trying to understand. Terrible consequences. What do you think she discovered? I don't know, but we need to investigate further. This secret might be linked to her disappearance, Clara replied, feeling a mix of anxiety and determination. Meanwhile, Clara's memories began to blend with flashes of moments spent with her sister. She recalled laughter, playing on the beach, and promises made under the starry sky. The pain of loss hurt. But now there was a new perspective. I feel like, somehow, Sophia is trying to tell me something, Clara said, her voice choked, and I can't ignore it. You're not alone in this, Clara. We'll find out the truth together, Miguel assured her, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. With the letter in hand and a new sense of purpose, Clara began to feel lighter. The memories of her sister, once a burden, were now becoming a force that propelled her to seek answers. Libertas, the horse, seemed to be more present in her thoughts, symbolizing the freedom she so desired. And so, Clara, following her instinct, knew she was about to unravel a mystery that could not only clarify Sophia's past, but also free her from herself. Clara and Miguel walked down the cobblestone street of the village, the sun beginning to set on the horizon, painting the sky orange and pink. The smell of the sea mixed with the aroma of fresh fish the fishermen brought in that day, but Clara felt a weight in her chest. The curiosity about Sophia's disappearance drove her, but the distrust from the locals left her uneasy. Miguel, noticing the tension on her face, decided to break the silence. You're thinking about the community, aren't you? He asked, his soft tone contrasting with the rigidity of the environment around them. Yes, Clara replied, looking down at the ground. Everyone seems so closed off. It's like there's an invisible wall between us and them. What happened to Sophia still haunts them. And they protect themselves, Miguel added, shaking his head. Fear is a powerful barrier. We can't give up, Clara. We need to find out what really happened. Clara nodded, but uncertainty still consumed her. They decided that the best way to get answers was to seek out Mrs. Andrews, an elderly woman who, according to rumors, knew Sophia. Her house was a small wooden structure, with windows that seemed to look back into the past. As they approached, Miguel felt a shiver. Do you think she'll want to talk? Clara asked hesitantly. I don't know, but it's worth a try, Miguel replied, determined. The door creaked open, revealing a hunched woman with white hair and a deep gaze that seemed to carry the weight of many stories. What do you want? Mrs. Andrews asked, her voice hoarse. We are friends of Sophia, Clara began, her voice firm but gentle. We want to know more about what happened to her. The woman hesitated, her eyes narrowing. Sophia, the girl full of life. She sighed, arms crossed. It's not easy to talk about this. We understand, Miguel interjected, his empathy evident, but we need to know if there's anything that could help us. Mrs. Andrews looked at them, doubt dancing in her gaze. Finally, she settled into the chair in front of them, gesturing for them to sit down. Sophia was involved in something dangerous, she said, her voice almost a whisper. She made friends with some people in the village, but not everyone was who they seemed to be. Clara exchanged a meaningful glance with Miguel, the information piquing her interest. What do you mean by dangerous? Clara asked, barely able to contain her anxiety. There were rumors about illegal trade, something many prefer to forget. Sophia. She might have seen more than she should have. Mrs. Andrews paused, her gaze distant. And some people don't like secrets coming to light. Do you know who was involved? Miguel asked, his voice more assertive. They're just rumors, she hurried to say. But there's an old childhood friend of hers who was always around. He never seemed trustworthy to me. Who is he? Clara asked, feeling her heart race. I can't say the name, but... Mrs. Andrews hesitated again, looking out the window as if she could see the past. He had a dark way about him, as if he carried a secret. Sophia began to distance herself from him, but it was already too late. Clara felt a chill run down her spine. This information could be the key they needed to understand what had happened. Thank you, Mrs. Andrews, Miguel said, while Clara still seemed lost in thought. The woman nodded, but the worry in her gaze did not dissipate. Be careful, children. The truth may be more dangerous than you imagine. As they left the house, Clara was in a whirlwind of emotions. We need to find out who this friend of Sophia is, she said, determined. Yes, but we must be cautious. The community won't like our investigation, Miguel replied, his expression grave. We can't give up. If Sophia went through this, we need to honor her memory, Clara asserted. Miguel agreed, but a feeling of apprehension settled between them. What more would they discover in their search for the truth? Clara was determined to uncover the truth about Sophia's disappearance. With every step she took, the connection between her own past and the mystery surrounding the girl became more intense. That morning, a sense of urgency pushed her to explore Sophia's house more deeply. The walls of the house, a bit worn by time, seemed to whisper secrets. As her hand brushed the cold wood of the bookshelf, Clara spotted a small diary hidden behind some books. With a slight tremor in her hands, she pulled out the dusty notebook and opened it. Wait, Clara, said Miguel, who was accompanying her in the search. Are you sure you want to do this? What if we find something we're not ready to know? Clara looked at him, saw the concern in his eyes, and felt her own heart race. I need to know, Miguel. I can't live with this uncertainty. If there's something that could help us understand what happened to Sophia, I have to find out. The pages of the diary were written in Sophia's delicate handwriting, and Clara began to read aloud. Dear Diary, today I met a new group of friends. They are different, bolder, but something tells me that not everything is as it seems. She paused, feeling a chill down her spine. What does this mean? Maybe these friends are part of what happened, suggested Miguel, with a thoughtful look. Do you remember what Mrs. Andrews said? Sophia was involved in something dangerous. Clara continued to read, each word captivating her more. With each entry, revelations began to emerge, like a puzzle coming together. Some people in the village are acting strangely. I don't know if I can trust them. There's something that won't let me be at peace. A secret that I feel is hidden somewhere. This could be what we're looking for, Miguel said, his gaze intensifying. We need to find out more about these friends and what they were doing. Maybe there's a connection to what happened. Determined, Clara flipped through more pages until she found a note that mentioned a symbol. Here, it mentions a symbol that she saw at one of the gatherings. It says it's something that represents a pact among the friends. A place they go to, celebrate. Clara frowned. What could this mean? It could be a specific location. Maybe something we can find, Miguel replied, feeling the adrenaline rise. We need to find out where this is. Let's look for more clues in the house. Something must lead us there. With renewed determination, they began to rummage through Sophia's house. Clara felt as if she were on a treasure hunt. Every object she touched could lead to a new revelation. Finally, in a dusty drawer, she found an old letter, yellowed with age. Carefully, she unfolded it and read aloud. Dear Sophia, if you are reading this, it's because you finally decided to join us. The pact is sacred, and those who do not respect it have no place among us. The symbol is our protection. A pact? Miguel interrupted, his expression darkening. That doesn't sound good. A pact can be something very serious and dangerous. Yes, but we need to understand what it means, Clara said, her heart racing. This could be the key to discovering what really happened. With the letter in hand, Clara and Miguel left the house and headed to the beach, where the wind carried the scent of the sea and the promise of new discoveries. The waves crashed on the sand, but Clara's mind was far away, immersed in Sophia's words. "What else did you know, Sophia?" she murmured, looking at the horizon. "Let's follow the clue of the symbol," Miguel suggested, already plotting a plan in his mind. "If we can find this place mentioned in the diary and the letter, maybe we can discover what Sophia meant." "You're right," Clara agreed, feeling a flutter of nerves in her stomach, but a determination simmered within her. "Let's uncover the truth, no matter what that means." And so, together, they set off toward the unknown, ready to unveil the secrets the village hid, certain that freedom and peace were within reach. Clara and Miguel cautiously made their way along the trail back to the village, adrenaline coursing through their veins. The evidence they had found in the abandoned barn was explosive, but the tense atmosphere of the community made them feel like they were about to step on a minefield. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky orange and pink, but the beauty of the scene felt distant, as if a fog of worry enveloped them. "We need to be careful," Clara whispered, looking around as if the villagers' eyes could follow them with every step. "We can't let them find out what we know." Miguel nodded, his face reflecting the seriousness of the situation. "If they know we're after the truth, they won't hesitate to stop us. We can't let that happen." As they walked, Clara felt her heart race. The idea of confronting the community, especially after everything she had discovered, made her nervous. But the determination to find justice for Sophia propelled her forward. As soon as they arrived in the village, the feeling of being watched intensified. The murmur of the villagers, voices hushed as they entered, as if a shroud of silence had fallen over the place. "Look, there's Old Man Harris." Miguel pointed discreetly to an elderly man who seemed to be watching them with a suspicious gaze. He was one of the villagers who, according to rumors, had a past full of secrets. Clara swallowed hard. "We need to find Mrs. Andrews. She might know more about what Sophia was doing before she disappeared." Miguel nodded, but before they could move, a group of villagers approached with hostile expressions. Clara recognized one of them as Jake, an old childhood friend of her sister. He had always been charismatic, but now his gaze was cold. "What are you doing here?" Jake asked, his voice heavy with suspicion. "We're just talking," Miguel replied, trying to keep calm. "Talking?" Jake laughed sarcastically. "Or maybe investigating. I heard you've been asking too many questions." Clara felt a chill down her spine. "We're not harming anyone, Jake. We just want to understand what happened to Sophia." Jake's expression hardened, and he stepped closer with a threatening tone. "Some things are better left in the past. Clara, it's none of your business." "And who decides what's my business?" Clara found herself retorting, anger growing inside her. "Sophia was my sister. I have the right to know. You don't know what you're talking about." "Some truths can destroy you," Jake whispered, his eyes darkening with an intensity that made Clara hesitate. At that moment, a murmur ran through the group of villagers that had gathered around them. The tension was palpable, and Clara realized that the situation could quickly become dangerous. Miguel, sensing the hostile atmosphere, stepped forward, placing himself between Clara and Jake. "We are just trying to answer questions that need to be answered. If you have any information, it would be better to share it than to stand here making threats," Miguel said, his voice firm but cautious. Jake stared at him for a long time, assessing the determination radiating from Miguel. He then turned away, looking at the other residents. "If you have nothing to hide, why so much concern?" he taunted before walking away, leaving a sense of discomfort lingering in the air. Clara felt a mix of relief and frustration. That was just the beginning. They are afraid the truth will come out. "And so are we," Miguel replied, looking around, his eyes filled with worry. "We need to be more careful. If they know we have evidence, they will do everything to stop us." Clara clenched her fists, determined. "I can't back down now. Sophia deserves justice, and I won't let fear stop me from finding what is right." The determination in her voice encouraged him, but Miguel knew that the road ahead would be difficult. They could be dealing with something much bigger than they imagined. The weight of responsibility increased with every moment, and the fight for the truth would lead them to confrontations that could change their lives forever. The salty sea breeze hit against the rocks of the cave where Clara and Miguel were hiding, surrounded by shadows and echoes of the past. The sound of waves crashing on the distant beach felt like a constant reminder of the danger they faced, but also of the freedom they sought. Clara was sitting on a rock, looking down, while Miguel watched the cave entrance, his gaze attentive and worried. "Do you think they will give up?" Clara asked, her voice trembling slightly. The tension from the previous confrontation still left her uneasy. Miguel's face was illuminated only by the soft light coming through the cave entrance, and he turned to her. "I don't know, Clara," he replied, his voice calm but serious. "But we can't let them intimidate us. What we found is important. Sophia deserves for the truth to come out." Clara nodded, but the guilt still weighed on her heart. The image of her sister's old childhood friend, now an antagonist, wouldn't leave her mind. "I can't understand how someone I knew could be involved in this. It's like everything I thought I knew about this village is crumbling." Miguel moved closer and sat next to her. Sometimes, people hide their true faces behind smiles and memories. It's not easy. But you're not alone. We're in this together. Clara looked at him, their eyes meeting in a moment of deep understanding. "I don't know what I would do without you, Miguel. You've helped me see beyond my pain. Thank you for being here." He smiled, a genuine smile that lit up his tired face. "I need you too. This village has many secrets, and I feel like we are close to discovering something big. We need to stay strong, even as the pressure mounts." As they discussed, Clara felt a wave of emotion wash over her. "I just want the truth to come out. I want the people who loved Sophia to understand what happened, so they can heal too." At that moment, an image flashed through Clara's mind. Libertas, the wild horse, running freely along the beach. The image was so vivid, it felt almost real. "Miguel, do you remember the horse I saw on the beach? Libertas. He is like a symbol for me. The freedom I seek so much." "Yes, I remember. He seems to be an important part of your journey," Miguel said, watching her closely. "What do you think he represents?" "Freedom. Freedom from the past, from the guilt I carry. When I see him running, I feel like there is hope. As if I could also run free, leave all of this behind," Clara explained, her voice heavy with emotion. "Then, maybe we should use that as motivation," Miguel suggested, his gaze intensifying. "If Libertas can be free, then we can be too. Let's fight for the truth, for freedom not just for you, but for everyone trapped in this cycle of pain." Clara felt a wave of determination rising within her. "You're right. I can't let fear stop me from acting. If Libertas can be free, then I can too. Let's find out what happened to Sophia and free this village from its secrets." "That's it, Clara. Together, we can do this. And no matter what happens, I will be by your side," Miguel declared, his voice firm and full of conviction. Clara took a deep breath, feeling the adrenaline coursing through her body. The vision of Libertas running freely on the beach became a symbol of her determination. "Let's do this. Let's find the truth and free not just me, but everyone who has been affected by this." They stood up, ready to face whatever was to come. The cave, which had once seemed a temporary shelter, was now a turning point in their journey. With renewed courage and the image of Libertas in their minds, Clara and Miguel left the cave, determined to seek the truth and finally find the freedom they so longed for. Clara and Miguel arrived at the San Francisco police station with racing hearts and minds full of doubts. The morning sun filtered through the clouds, reflecting a hopeful glow, but the tension between them was palpable. Clara held tightly to the folder with the documents they had found in the stable, as if it was the key to freeing her from the guilt that had followed her since her sister's death. As they entered the police station, they were greeted by an austere environment, with white walls and an atmosphere of seriousness. A middle-aged police officer, his face marked by lines of expression, looked up from a report he was examining and observed the two with a mix of curiosity and skepticism. "Good morning. What brings you here?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. Clara took a deep breath, trying to muster the courage to speak. "We have information about the disappearance of a girl from the village, Sophia. We believe there was corruption involved and that we can help clarify what happened." The officer looked at Miguel, who was standing next to her, and then turned back to Clara. Sophia, that happened years ago. The case was closed. What do you have that is relevant now? Listen, Miguel intervened, noticing Clara was about to falter under the pressure. We found evidence that links some villagers to her disappearance. We need someone to investigate this properly. The officer sighed, visibly skeptical. And why should I believe you? Two young people from an isolated village coming here with a story like this. We need concrete proof. Clara, feeling the weight of distrust, opened the folder and pulled out one of the sheets. Here, it's a diary we found in Sophia's house. It contains information about friends she made, about secrets that could be connected to what happened to her. The officer looked at the sheet but did not take it. A diary? That's pretty vague. What if it's just a made-up story? It's not a fabrication, Clara exclaimed, frustration showing in her voice. Sophia disappeared, and the community has been silent about it. We just want the truth to come out. Finally, the officer took the sheet and began to read. The silence in the room was broken only by the sound of the pages turning. His expression began to change as he absorbed the words. Okay, I'll be honest, he said, looking up at Clara and Miguel. This is intriguing. But you have to understand that we need solid evidence if we're going to take this seriously. Clara felt a glimmer of hope rise within her. We also found a symbol that may be linked to Sophia's disappearance. This could help connect the dots. A symbol? What exactly do you mean by that? The officer asked, starting to show more interest. Miguel joined the conversation, explaining, On the beach, we found a piece of torn fabric marked with a symbol. It's familiar to some villagers and could be the key to understanding what happened. The officer took some notes and then looked at Clara. If what you say is true, this could open the door for an investigation. But we still need to be cautious. The community might not take these revelations well. We're aware of that, Clara replied. But the truth needs to be known, not just for Sophia, but for everyone who still lives under the weight of this secret. The inspector, who had remained silent until then, decided to intervene. He approached the table where they were and reached for the documents Clara had prepared. Let me see that. Clara handed over the papers, her heart racing with anxiety. The inspector began to read, and the atmosphere was charged with expectation. The officer who had initially doubted now watched, his expression shifting from skepticism to genuine curiosity. If what you brought here is true, we might have a case on our hands, the inspector finally said, looking at Clara with newfound determination. I'll assign an officer to investigate this further. We need to follow every lead you have. Clara felt a wave of relief and gratitude wash over her. Thank you. This means everything to us. But remember, the inspector warned, the truth can come with risks. The community may not be ready to hear what you discovered. We're ready to face that, Miguel declared, standing firm beside Clara. We'll do whatever it takes. Then let's get started, the inspector said, picking up the phone to organize the investigation. Clara and Miguel exchanged a look, feeling that the journey for the truth was just beginning. The day was overcast in Crescent City, reflecting the tense atmosphere hanging over the village. Clara and Miguel positioned themselves in a discreet spot where they could observe the activity at the police station. Clara's heart raced, not only from the adrenaline of the situation but from the anticipation of what was about to happen. She never imagined she could be the catalyst for such a drastic change in the community that had taken her in, albeit hesitantly. Are you ready for this? Miguel asked, concern evident in his gaze. He knew how much Clara carried the weight of guilt and the pain of loss, and the thought of confronting the truth was even heavier. I am. It's now or never, Clara replied, taking a deep breath. Sophia deserves this. We need to do this for her. They both watched as a group of officers came in and out of the police station, the murmur of voices intensifying as news of the investigation began to spread. Clara felt a knot in her stomach, but the determination to seek justice for her sister kept her steady. After a few minutes, an officer stepped out of the station with a serious expression. Everyone, we need all of you here. Some crucial information has come to light, he said, his voice authoritative. The murmur quickly turned into whispers of anxiety and expectation. Clara and Miguel exchanged glances, adrenaline surging even more. This is it, they're taking it seriously, Miguel commented, trying to contain his excitement. Clara nodded, but her mind was filled with uncertainties. What if they don't believe? She pondered. They'll have to believe. We have the evidence, Miguel replied, firm in his conviction. And who knows, this might unite the community. As the residents began to gather in front of the police station, Clara remembered how the village had become a place of distrust and fear. Now, there they were, all together, but with cautious looks. When the chief, a middle-aged man with deep wrinkles and a tired expression, appeared at the door, the murmuring fell silent. Ladies and gentlemen, we know there have been rumors and fears regarding Sophia's disappearance and other situations affecting our community. Today, we are here to investigate the truth, he declared, looking at the crowd with a gaze that mixed authority and compassion. Clara felt her heart tighten at the mention of Sophia's name. The chief continued, "We have received new information that could change everything. I thank everyone who came forward and helped bring this information to light. We need to unite now more than ever," Miguel whispered to Clara. "This could be the beginning of something good." "Maybe," Clara replied, but insecurity still lingered with her. Then, the chief gestured for Clara and Miguel to come closer. "You two, come here." With everyone's eyes fixed on them, Clara felt as if she were being exposed. Miguel placed his hand on her back, a gesture of silent support. "It's time, Clara," he said. When they were in front of the chief, Clara took a deep breath and began to explain her discovery. "We found Sophia's diary, and it contains clues about people who may be involved in what happened to her," she said, her voice steady but still emotional. The chief listened attentively, taking notes as Clara continued. "There is a corruption scheme in the village, and we need this to be investigated." "Corruption? Here?" one of the residents exclaimed, disbelief evident on his face. The murmurs began again, this time mixed with anger and confusion. "This is what we need to understand. We need to know the truth, no matter how painful it may be," Miguel intervened, his voice raised but controlled. "We are all here to find out what really happened, and this begins with the courage to face the ghosts of the past." The tension in the atmosphere was palpable, but gradually, other residents began to approach, willing to listen. Clara noticed the voices of support rising. "If this is true, we need to face our fears together," an elderly woman commented, her voice trembling but filled with determination. Her words resonated among the crowd, and Clara felt a wave of hope. The truth was about to emerge, and with it, the possibility of healing. The sun was beginning to set over Crescent City, painting the sky a deep, soft orange as the villagers gathered in the central square. Clara, standing next to Miguel, watched the scene with a mix of apprehension and hope. The atmosphere was charged, but there was a palpable energy of change in the air. The murmuring voices of the inhabitants intertwined with the sound of waves crashing on the beach, creating a symphony that echoed both sadness and relief. An improvised altar had been set up in the center of the square, adorned with wildflowers and small lit candles that flickered in the sea breeze. Clara felt the weight of Sophia's presence like a shadow beside her, but now that shadow was no longer oppressive. It was as if the energy of the missing young woman were there, guiding her on her healing journey. "Are you ready for this?" Miguel asked, his calm gaze fixed on Clara. He too felt the importance of that ritual, a moment when the community could begin to reconcile with the past. Clara took a deep breath, inhaling the scent of the sea and flowers. "I think so. It's time to step forward, not just for myself, but for all of us." Her voice trembled slightly, but there was a determination in her gaze that did not go unnoticed. As the ceremony began, one of the older residents, Mr. Thompson, stepped forward. His wrinkled face was marked by pain and regret. "We are here today to honor Sophia's memory," he began, his deep voice resonating in the night. "For too long, our community has hidden behind secrets and fears. But that is no longer possible. We need to face the truth, not just for Sophia, but for all of us." Murmurs of agreement spread among those present, and Clara felt her heart race. Several residents, who had previously worn hostile expressions, were now willing to open up. The weight of guilt they carried was starting to be shared. "I would like to ask for your forgiveness, Clara," said Mrs. Andrews, tears in her eyes. "I knew more than I let on. It wasn't fair to keep this a secret. Sophia deserved more than what we did." Clara felt a wave of emotion. "Thank you," she replied, her voice soft but firm. "I just want the truth to be known, and that we can heal together." Mrs. Andrews nodded, and the atmosphere began to change. Clara felt enveloped in a sense of solidarity. The pain was there, but there was also the possibility of redemption. One by one, the residents began to share their memories of Sophia, her laughter, her dreams, and the sadness that surrounded her. Clara heard stories she didn't know, moments that reinforced the image of a girl full of life and hope. After the testimonies, Clara had a moment of reflection. With a steady voice, she turned to the community. Sophia is not just a legend or a tragic memory. She was a person, and she deserves to be remembered with love. Let's commit to taking care of each other, to being a united community. Hearing her words, a wave of murmurs of agreement spread. The previously closed faces were now softer, more receptive. The weight of guilt was beginning to dissipate, making way for a renewed sense of belonging. Finally, Clara turned to the sea, where Libertas, the horse that meant so much to her, was in the distance, as if waiting. "It's time to set him free," Clara said, a melancholic smile on her lips. Miguel nodded, understanding what she wanted to do. With a gentle gesture, Clara walked to the water's edge, accompanied by Miguel and the townspeople. She took a piece of fabric she had found, now full of meaning, and held it over the improvised altar. "Libertas, you represent the freedom we seek. May you always run free, just like us." With a determined movement, Clara released the piece of fabric into the wind. It floated, dancing in the breeze before disappearing on the horizon. At that moment, she felt an indescribable lightness. The chains that bound her began to unravel, and the pain of losing her sister transformed into a tender reminder. As everyone watched Libertas gallop toward freedom, Clara smiled, feeling that, like the horse, she too was finally ready to move on. The past would no longer define her. She had found the courage to embrace the future. So, what did you think of this story? Your opinion is essential for us to improve our content. Write what you thought in the comments and remember to subscribe and like this video. Thank you for your attention and see you in the next video.